Preseason football has started, and so now there's football games on TV, and they're starting to take over the network. You can click the clicker and go from one game to another, and there's several games going on all at the same time. It's that season, and not too long ago, as I was watching on one of the networks, not cable TV, one of the networks, there was a commercial for a program that's going to start in the fall. Coming, I think it was CBS, because that's what comes into my head. Coming on CBS this fall, a new drama called Cupertino. Did you see this? Did you see this ad on TV? Cupertino coming this fall. And it's crazy. And then they have a pan out of Cupertino, the town. And there's the marina there. And there's some buildings, and there's a little marina, there's a river, it looks like a bay almost. For Cupertino, Dick, I know you've lived here 60 years, you still haven't found the marina in Cupertino. It's and they show the layout of Cupertino, Hollywood Cupertino, and there's a marina, there's some stores. It looks like what they envisioned the remodel at Velco might have been, except they bring in a lake and a bay and boats and a beautiful bridge going over. And that's fantasy enough, but then the premise of the program is that it's a small law firm going into court against the tech giants and winning one case per week. And I mean, how ridiculous is that? The U.S. government brings the tech giants into court, and they never win. The government, it just gets getting kicked down the road. I mean, Cupertino, the vision of the place is a complete fantasy. What they claim is going to happen in the program is a complete fantasy. It's not genuine. It's just Hollywood Cupertino and what Hollywood would like Cupertino to be. But that's not us. It's Hollywood. It's an image of what life might be like, but not what life is really like. Cupertino is a wonderful place. We don't need a marina. We don't need fake stories. We live real life stories in this place every day. And that's what our gospel lesson's about. It's about someone who found their real life story, their true story. They didn't have to pretend to be someone they weren't. And they found their genuine faith. Not the faith that somebody said, this is what you have to believe, or this is what you have to say, or this is what you have to embrace if you're going to be a person of faith. No, not that. She found her genuine faith. That's what this gospel experience is about. And some people read it as Jesus being xenophobic and harsh and cruel and not answering her and kind of insulting her along the way until she finds her faith. And that's not it. What Jesus does is invites her on a journey. Have mercy upon me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely afflicted with a demon. That's what she says. And that's not a Canaanite saying, that's a Jewish saying. And Jesus invites her to reflect on exactly how Jewish she is. Because she's not Jewish at all. She's Canaanite. That's who she is. That's her history. Those are her people. And so Jesus is going to invite her to reflect on who she really is, not on who she thinks she has to pretend to be to get some response from God. And really, the journey of faith is about being genuine and drawing near to God honestly and with the deep truth of who we are on our lips and what our deepest need is. And go before God as children of God, the very children of God He created us to be. You want to find your genuine faith, your real faith? Jesus invites us to join Him on this journey. And the Canaanite woman, she trips and she falls and she stumbles over thinking that she needs to approach Jesus in a certain way, in an appropriate way. And Jesus just wants her to approach Him in an honest way. And so instead of lifting up a Jewish prayer, he helps her define the words that she really wants to express. Lord, help me. And you can't get any more human than that. Lord, help me. How she gets to that place is really remarkable. It's the same way we get there. The story in Matthew begins, and Jesus and his disciples traveled to the region of Tyre and Sidon, and behold, there's that word, behold, that means pay attention. That means as we're going through this, it's time to wake up in church. Behold, a Canaanite woman came up and shouted out to him. So, behold, a Canaanite woman. This is a woman of Canaan. So do we know Canaan? And Canaan, its history in the biblical story, Canaan? Because in order to embrace her genuine faith, she needs to embrace the fact that she is truly Canaanite. She's from Canaan. She's not Jewish. Actually, the Canaanites were enemies of the Jewish people. Back to the days of Moses leading the Hebrews into the Promised Land. The Canaanites did not offer hospitality. There was enmity between the Hebrews and the Canaanites back in the day. Queen Jezebel was a Canaanite. Queen Jezebel, who decided that it was time to put an end to Elijah the prophet, and chased him, and he ran for his life, and he ran and he ran, and he ran away to Mount Horeb and Mount Sinai, and encountered the voice of God in the still small voice. It was Queen Jezebel who came from Canaan and was trying to reestablish the worship of Baal, the Canaanite god, and bring that into Israel. Elijah wasn't having it. There was a confrontation. Elijah defeated the prophets of Baal, and Jezebel wanted to kill him and chased him. And he was lucky to escape by the grace of God. That's Jezebel, a Canaanite. That's part of the family's history. That's who this woman is. That's part of her people. But Rahab is also part of her people. And Rahab is the one who helped the Hebrews spy out the land before they entered it. And Rahab is listed in the genealogy of Jesus in Matthew chapter 1. Rahab was a Canaanite who helped the Hebrews. And she's a part of the family history. And so if you want to find your genuine faith, you begin by asking yourself, who are my people? Who are your people? Where do you come from in the faith journey? The faith lineage. Maybe you have people in your family history who were faithful, deeply faithful. And maybe you have people in your family history who wanted no part of it. Everybody comes from somewhere. And in the scriptures, everybody has a history, a people that they came from. And that is really the source through which their faith is carried. So when Paul writes to Timothy, he says, I know that you have faith. Faith that began in your grandmother Lois, and then was passed on into the life of your mother Eunice, and now lives in you. That's Timothy's story. Paul's story is he started out in Tarsus, which was a Roman colony, a city. He's Saul of Tarsus. He's always Saul of Tarsus. Tarsus goes with him wherever he goes because they are his people. And Paul was a Roman citizen. Being a Jew, the way you became a Roman citizen was someone in your family did wonderful things for the community, and they were recognized, and citizenship was bestowed upon them. And then it was handed down generation to generation. So they think maybe it was Paul's grandfather who did something wonderful in Tarsus, and the citizenship was handed down. Maybe it was his father, but they think it was longer ago than that. So Paul grew up in a family of deep faith, deep Jewish faith, and yet recognized the blessing that they had received from the civil authorities in giving the family citizenship. And that's his story. That's where he comes from. And he carries that with him. Even when he goes to Jerusalem to study under the Pharisees, he is still Saul of Tarsus. And in Jesus is Jesus of Nazareth. He is a Galilean Jew. That's his story. Those are his people. And if you really want to know who Jesus' people are, read the genealogy in chapter 1 of Matthew's Gospel. It is all the way back to Abraham. And we have people. We have our people who are your people. I mean, I could tell you stories about my people. But it's people of great faith who also wrestled with the church and struggled with, the church does good, the church doesn't do good. It's kind of a mixed bag, and it was part of the story. So I only started going to church because my dad was killed in an airplane crash. If he were still alive, he would not have allowed his kids to go to church. And he was a missionary for the church. And he struggled with how the church preached one thing and in private often did another. And he couldn't reconcile that. He really struggled with it. And after he died, first thing my mom did was bring us to church. Everybody comes from somewhere. We have our own faith story. And then there's the place you live. You live here. Cupertino, not the TV Cupertino, the real one. Cupertino, Sunnyvale, the Bay Area, that's home to us, and we live our faith here. And there's amazing things about here. The diversity of cultures here is really one of the unique blessings of this community. And the Canaanite woman lived in a Gentile world, but the diversity of people in that community that the Canaanite woman was a part of kind of reminiscent, reminds me of here, where there are so many different cultures and different religious traditions and religious backgrounds. And we live our faith in the midst of it all. This is our place. And Cupertino, one of the most highly educated, healthiest, most affluent places to live in the world. Right here. And yet life isn't perfect, is it? We all have our needs. And if you want to find your faith, identify who your people are. Identify where you're living right now. Where is your place? This is the place. And what is your personal impossibility? What is it that's happening in your life that you cannot control, you can't fix it, you can't deal with it, you can't make it go away? That's what this Canaanite woman was dealing with. She had to recognize who her people were. She had to recognize where she was living this need for God and what that need was. And the need was her daughter. Her daughter was sick. Her daughter was afflicted and she couldn't fix it. She couldn't make it go away. And so she drew near to Jesus. And everybody has that. No matter who your people are, no matter where you live. We all have something in our lives that is our personal impossibility. We can't fix it. We can't make it go away. We can't deal with it. And so we draw near to God and we cry out to God and we say, Lord, help me. And then the question is, does Jesus answer? Is Jesus really who he says he is? Sometimes we struggle with that. Sometimes we grow hoarse and wear ourselves out crying out to God. But God is faithful. And God is forever faithful. And God is working good in a world that works devastation into people's lives over and over again. And the world means it for evil. God works good in the midst of the brokenness of this world and the brokenness of our lives. That's the truth of it. And we all come to our faith. And that's one of the most beautiful lines in all of Scripture. Great is your faith. Because it's hers. It belongs to her. It's genuine and it's true and it's real. Because she broke free of all the artifice and pretending to be someone that she wasn't and just said, Lord, help me. Just crumbs. Crumbs from the master's table. Great is your faith. Let it be as you wish. And her daughter was healed immediately, and God answered the cry of her heart. You know, it's amazing when you start packing things up. You find things in boxes or in drawers or in your desk. I have a desk that I use and have been using. It is a graduation present that my mom gave me when I graduated from high school. And I have brought that desk to the university and used it when I was a university student. I brought it to seminary, used it when I was a seminary student. Brought it back to Princeton when Diana was there. Brought it to Mystic when we were serving in Mystic. Brought it out to California when I was at Claremont. Brought it back to the East Coast in Maine. Brought it to New Hampshire. Brought it back out to California. That desk has traveled. And you know, you have stuff in the drawers. I found sermons from 30 years ago in the drawers. I thought, oh my goodness, why do I hold on to this? I thought, that's not so bad. 30 years ago, I was finding my faith. Still am finding my faith. And I found a letter not long ago from a man who attended church in the first church we served in. Tom. And I was surprised to find it. I know why I kept it at the time, I guess. But it was in a bunch of stuff. And just happened to find it. Tom started coming to church with his mom. He was divorced and came back to live at his mom's house. His ex-wife lived in town. They had one daughter. And he lived with his mom, and he would come to church with his mom on the weekends when his daughter was with his ex-wife. So he would come to church, and I would occasionally say, you know, it'd be nice to have your daughter come. We've got Sunday school. You could bring her. She can be a part of it. He never responded. And then one day, after church, I'm at coffee fellowship, and you know how people at church can talk. I don't know if it happens here. I don't know if people get together and they just start talking about things that maybe happened in someone else's life once upon a time. And there were some ladies in the church gathered around the coffee, and they were talking, and they kind of dragged me into the conversation. They said, oh, Tommy, I remember Tommy growing up in that house where he's living with his mom. I remembered when his parents split up. And I remember he used to go and sit on the steps every Saturday morning with a little travel bag. And he would wait for his dad to come pick him up. But his dad never came. Not one Saturday. And we would see his dad in town. We'd see him in the bars. And Tommy would be waiting on the steps for his dad to come. And his dad never came. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen. That's what they were talking about around the coffee. Well, Sundays would happen and Tom would be there with his mom, and I'd say, "Oh, Tom, it'd be so good if you could bring your daughter to church. That would be great." And one Sunday he said to me, "I don't want my daughter to believe in someone who makes promises but never shows up." Now, he didn't know that I knew his story. But that was his ache. His personal impossibility was how to get over the fact that his dad said he was going to come pick him up on Saturdays and never showed up. And now he felt that's the way God was. That God makes promises, but God never shows up. And I'm just in church for my mom. And then a couple of years after we moved on from that church, I got a letter thanking me for encouraging him in participating in the life of the church. And for how now he and his family and his mom are finding an amazing experience of life, and he's bringing his daughter to church and they're sharing the faith together. He said, "I had my doubts about God, but God is real. God doesn't just promise to show up. He really does. And I wanted you to know that God showed up for me." That's his faith. And he found it. And when you find your faith, it is such a blessing. You'll never let it go. And you will share with the people dear to you how God fulfilled his promise in a way that you'll never forget. Great is your faith. Let it be to you according to your prayer. And her daughter was healed immediately. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.